last night. The drama, it started pregame. Ron Rivera benched Cam the opening series against Seattle because of a dress code violation, and it cost them. Derek Anderson got picked off on the first play, and it led to 3 points. The Seahawks just beat up on the Panthers to the tune of 40-7. Here's Rivera and Cam on what went down.
It was a travel dress code violation, and so the decision was treat him like I do all the other players on the team, and he didn't start.
There was a report that he wasn't wearing a necktie. Is that?
I'm not going to get into what our dress code is, okay? I just explained to you why I did it. I'm not going to get into it, okay? We're moving on, and we're going to talk about the football game.
Was this solely your decision?
Yes, my decision, completely my decision. And as I said, Bill, the decision was made because I treat him like I treat him all the same.
You know, it came down to a dress code manner. I didn't follow dress code, and you know, Coach told me that I wasn't going to start. So I stand by his decision. Is you know, the position that he's in. You know, I follow it. You know, hand in hand.
Max,
Yep.
what's Big Ron thinking here?
Yeah, he's punishing Cam here. It's not just about the dress code, because that might be why you start the game on the bench. But why do you finish the game in a 33-point blowout? I mean, those first 3 points, it's like the old Eddie Murphy joke about Johnny Carson's ex-wife. Here, go put those 3 points with the rest. There were 30 points on top of it, right? I mean, so what is Cam doing in at the end of the game? That's punishment. That's a guy, the only explanation to me is Ron Rivera has written off this season and has thought, I got to get this guy under control. I got to start coaching him and setting an example with Cam for next season already.
You know, I look at it in a sense, I think it's a little bit more involved in this whole situation. It's not about the dress code. There's some other things that's involved in this deal. And the conversation that was had between Ron and Cam this was the best decision to make. And I know we can look at it in a sense because Cam talked about he wasn't able to go and get a shirt and tie. And it is hard for any of us to go get regular shirts off the rack, you know, with the sizable wide back that I have and my neck. But Cam's 6'5", 250. He's not going into any Brooks Brothers or any of these outlets to go and get shirts. But again, it says a lot about Ron Rivera and the direction he wants to take this football team. Now, we've all been through Super Bowl droughts. It happens to a lot of different teams with injuries and just not playing the same way. But in a sense of benching your franchise quarterback as well as the last year's MVP, Ron knew going into this that there was going to be big questions after the game, if you won or lost, about Cam Newton. So I think there's more than just the dress code that the Cam Newton didn't obey the rules. I think more of if he maybe late for a meeting or possibly this is something that's been going on for the last couple of weeks. But I think it's just not this weekend that he missed the dress code, why it was a big problem for that football team.
I sort of agree with Donovan here, I think, but let me put it more succinctly. They're lying. They're not talking about something that happened in terms of you walking to the game and not wearing a tie. This man is the reigning league MVP. Okay, this dude is box office.
Right.
You don't bench, and by the way, look pretty damn good walking to the game.
He had his Tom Brady look on.
He had the Tom Brady look on.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, sir. I appreciate that, Molly. Here's the deal. It's not like he rolled up in the game with his pants hanging below his backside, which some ignorant folks out there tend to do, and they need to stop it, by the way.
Come on, man. That's what the young dudes are
Put your
wearing.
pants up.
Yeah.
Put your pants up, damn it. That's what I'm saying. Okay. It's not like he rolled up in the game.
I feel like that's been going on for a while.
It has, but you know, now they got the floods.
They got everything. They got everything going on. It's getting ridiculous, okay? So let's be clear.
It's all about the skinnies.
Cam Newton lived up to any dress code. Let's be clear about that. Having said all of that, it did give me the impression that there's clearly more to this than that, number one. But number two, I must confess, although when I initially saw it, I had a problem with Ron Rivera because I was like, who does this get done to? This is the franchise? Come on now. At the same time, let's put on our big boy pants here. Rules are rules.
Rules are rules.
And if you know the rule and you broke the rule, then I can't sit up there and condemn Ron Rivera.
That's fine to start the game, but what about the finish? To me, that's like, see, to start the game, okay, you could write all that off. But then when you end a blowout, you got no shot, and you just leave your guy in to take that, to me, that's like a punitive.
But again, here's what Donovan was talking about. You're talking about the likelihood, and somebody in his position would know. The likelihood is that this ain't the first transgression. The likelihood is that the coach believes you have been feeling yourself just a little bit and exercising your cachet. Couple that with Richard Sherman's comments, along with that of others, and the way they talked about how he dabbed and celebrated and humiliated and played. There are people in the NFL. We love Cam.
Yeah.
We appreciate what Cam brings to the table. So, no doubt about it. But Cam, in a lot of people's eyes, may have been feeling himself just a little bit too much. And it's one thing when the opponent calls you out, but now the coach has piggybacked off of that and basically has given indications. Excuse me, this captain, this star that I have that all of y'all love is kind of a problem at home, and I needed to deal with this. That's what I got from
And I also understand that for a lot of people who are Cam Newton haters, this gives them fuel to add more to their dislike to Cam Newton. So I in a sense of, I understand exactly what you're talking about, being a fan and understanding the game, Max. But, for coaches, this is just a way of just showing Cam that he put himself before the team. And, it's a rule in which that was been in place. Hey, when I traveled with Philadelphia, it was business as usual. We would come with shirt and tie, or we would come in a polo shirt, sweater, whatever it may be. From what I understand, Cam came in with like a T-shirt on. And that's just a total disrespect. I mean, for what we had in Philadelphia, we had some guys that were disrespectful to the dress code. They were fined. They were consistently fined. But it wasn't to the point where you were going to bench a guy that you definitely needed.
Not the quarterback
on both
either,
sides.
the
No,
face
it
of
wasn't
the
the quarterback.
franchise.
But you know what else, too, I don't like about this? And this is the part where I don't like about what Ron Rivera did. Finding somebody and hitting them in their pockets is significant enough.
Yeah.
Those fans, that ain't about you. That game is about those 60,000 plus that comes to a game. They walk through the turnstiles. Yes, it's an NFL game. Yes, the NFL is the most popular league in America right now. Yes, all of that stuff is true. But damn it, when you hear the Carolina Panthers, you think one man above all else, and his name is Cam Newton. And to have him out for any portion of the game because he...
Today, that sends a stronger message, though. A fine does nothing to him. This sets the precedent. Nobody's above the team.
I totally agree.
It hits home more
I
so.
totally agree. But because of what the fine it apparently entailed,
Right.
I'm saying that's not enough of a reason in my mind to rob the fans of who they want to see.
But that, I see, and then
That's
the question
what I
is,
don't like.
why do this now? I focus on the end of the game. The beginning of the game, I get. That's a credible excuse. The end of the game, in a blowout like an NFL game decided by 33 points, it's just embarrassing. It's not, to keep him in at that point, to me, is when you couple that with the benching in the beginning, that's Ron Rivera going, the season's over, we're 4-8. But just like we had a Super Bowl hangover, at least NFC Championship hangover from last year, I'm trying to correct this it seems to me he's coaching for next year by doing this.
Yeah, but then if he takes Cam out, he takes Ted Ginn out, Benjamin out, then all of a sudden we're going to say that they're tanking. They're just trying to get a high draft pick. And also, you got to look at it from a coaching standpoint. I'm trying to send a message. That means you let your team down, you're going to stay out there and take that whooping just like everybody else. Right. And so, from a player standpoint, no, we want to be out of the game too because it's embarrassing. And plus, this was a really big game, not just for the Carolina Panthers. This was a big game for Cam Newton. When you beat Seattle last year, that was a big step for Cam. So going into this game, it wasn't about the Seattle Seahawks or the Carolina Panthers. It was about Richard Sherman and that defense versus Cam Newton. And can Cam Newton beat Seattle in Seattle?
Exactly. And they were coming at him or whatever. Now, we all know that Ron Rivera played the role of stepdad more so than coach. We all know that. Trying to go there. I'm just saying that's how I felt. That's how I felt. Okay. I'm just saying that's how I felt. But, and I don't recall this happening to any other quarterback in NFL history. I just don't recall it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't recall it. Having said all of that, rules are rules. And when I think about him being into the last part of the game, Max, I will say this. Maybe he's trying to work on some chemistry or whatever. This dude, Donovan, Kelvin Benjamin, somebody needs to say this. I'm going to say it. Kelvin Benjamin, you stealing money, bro. I mean, he just looked like he literally looked like he got his heart snatched out of his chest.
Even all year like this with Kel, let's be honest.
He's
all
coming
year.
off the ACL injury. That is a tough injury to come on. Look at Jordy Nelson was looking rough too in the beginning.
I'm talking about the amount of effort it seems he puts into running routes.
Donovan.
He's never been a great route runner. He's like 6'4". He's not a great route runner. He's a big target.
Yeah.
And that's what works well in that offense because a lot of the balls that Cam throws are a little high. So when you have taller receivers, they're able to go get it.
I feel you, but Donovan, you can't tell me. You know, and I know you're a nice guy. You're a nice guy, Donovan. You understand what I'm saying? You can get on somebody, but you're going to try to do it nicely sometimes. You can't tell me you watch this brother Kelvin Benjamin running routes, and you watch the effort that he doesn't show, and you would be okay
it's the
with him
same
doing
thing
it.
that he
You
was
can't
doing with
tell me that.
Jameis Winston in Florida State. He's not a great route runner. What they utilize him in the middle of the football field and to catch balls and run through tackles. There are a lot of great receivers who have played this game who are taller than 6'1", 6'2".
I appreciate
and you don't see them running great
Donovan
routes
McNabb,
outside.
because what I'm saying, I'm talking about his effort. If you're telling me that you're satisfied with the effort, I'm going to take your word for it. But Max and I are on the same page. I don't like what I'm seeing.
The other thing about Donovan McNabb, to be fair, is that I'm sure if he had an issue with a receiver and it became public, he would simply address it.
Let's leave it there.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I didn't do it to you. Go ahead, Molly.
Donovan, I'm with you, though. I don't think this was an isolated dress code incident. Something smells a little more to this story.
Yeah.
I said the same thing. You wasn't
You
with
too.
me? You wasn't
No,
with me?
I wanted to
I'm
agree
just
with
saying, you know what I
Donovan.
mean? Just go ahead.
It's all right.
Trolling. You guys heard from the guys. We want to hear from you at home. Was Rivera right
need
to
love,
bench
Max. I need
Cam
love.
last night? Go on Twitter now.
You acted-
You get too
You
much
acted-
love. That's the problem.
You know, hey,
Let's keep
what can we
going.
say?
It wasn't all
You know, what
good
can we
news
say?
for the Seahawks
I
in the
apologize.
win.
I apologize.
Earl Thomas left the game in the second quarter with a broken left leg. Thomas tweeted at halftime and had some powerful words on his future. This game has been so good to me. No regrets. A lot is running through my mind, including retirement. Thanks for all the prayers. So, Max, clearly a big loss for your preseason Super Bowl pick here. Are you sticking with Seattle still to come out of the NFC?
I am. Let me just say, Earl Thomas right now is obviously emotional. He's way too good still to retire, in my opinion, unless he feels like he's just had it. But I think that comes in the moment out of frustration for him. He's a fantastic player. This is a huge loss. It's not Gronkowski-level loss to the Patriots just because of what else they have and everything, but it's a huge loss. I'm sticking with Seattle as my NFC pick, and I believe Seattle actually avenges their loss to the Patriots in the Super Bowl this year. That was my preseason pick. I'm sticking with it. Look, the betting line isn't going to change because of this in Vegas. The smart money's not going to change because of this in Vegas, right? And partly that's because he's not a quarterback, and so these things. And partly it's because the team that we're really comparing everyone to, especially in the NFC this year, has become the Cowboys, a run-heavy team.
Right.
So given what they're up against, this loss, although a bad one, and he's a fantastic player, maybe means a little less than if the Cowboys were a different kind of team. I'm sticking with Seattle.
Definitely Earl Thomas was a little Seattle. I mean, excuse me. He was a little emotional in that situation. I mean, you break your leg. You worked your way back off of an injury, and now you get hurt again. Especially for a defense which they have everything coming together now. Michael Bennett's back healthy. They have their whole defensive line back. Cam Chancellor's back. Earl Thomas was there. Now he goes out, and he's looking on the sideline because he feels like they're going to move on without him. And we've all been in that situation now. We haven't been tweeting 18 minutes after you've been diagnosed that there's been a broken leg now, but that's different. But I look into the Seattle Seahawks instance for this. Not about their defense, it's about their offense. Their offense and their running game is awful. And you're asking so much from Russell Wilson to carry the load on the offensive end and just let our defense just hold. But how fitting is it watching that game? Who shows up on the sideline? Marshawn Lynch, playing with guys on the sideline. Is there's a chance he's coming back? Because you think Precise, who's out.
Yes, you did.
I mean, Rawls is now in the concussion protocol, just coming back from injury. Now he's back in the concussion protocol. But what about Marshawn Lynch coming back for the last 3-4 games of the season and being ready for playoff play?
Could you imagine?
Now, would you put Seattle ahead of Dallas? Because with Marshawn Lynch running the football, now the offensive line's a little bit different. But with Marshawn Lynch, at least in the backfield, running the football 12 to 15 times for about 65, 70 yards, what that does to the play action game, for Jimmy Graham running down the middle of the field, and now Baldwin starting to elevate his game.
For morale, right? In the locker room.
Because now that emotional leader is back. Him on the sideline, guys playing around with Marshawn Lynch, you wouldn't think a game's going on. They were happy to see him on the sideline. With him back out there on the football field, it does a lot for that football team. I didn't steal your luster, did I?
This is a very, very... No one steals my luster, bro. Don't worry about that.
So lucky.
Oh,
This is a very
shines.
very hard segment for me. I get a little emotional right now.
The lip don't quiver.
My lip might quiver. I'm getting very worried. This loss to Earl Thomas. Think about this. Tampa only scored 14 against them a week before or whatever, right? But Earl Thomas was out. He goes down yesterday, you immediately give up a 55-yard touchdown catch to Ted Ginn Jr. This kid, Steven Terrell, who subbed for him at free safety, their defense is still elite, but there's something missing when Earl Thomas is not there.
True.
And if there is something that's missing when Earl Thomas is not there, to a team that has speed and athleticism but not girth and has been pushed around once or twice this year, I gotta admit I'm getting a little bit worried about the Dallas Cowboys. Because when I think about the Seattle Seahawks, I say, Earl Thomas and the crew, they will find a way. They will not let me down. Those are my homeboys. They will not let me down. They will not let me down. But when Earl Thomas goes, I don't know this dude, Steven Terrell. I know Bobby Wagner. I know Richard Sherman. I know Cam Chancellor, the hitman. You understand what I'm saying? I respect Avril and the crew. Bennett when he comes in. I don't know this dude, Steven Terrell. And on top of it all, I understand he's a member of the Seattle Seahawks, but there's a difference between being a member of the Seattle Seahawks and being a member of the Legion of Boom. And I don't know this dude.
He's an honorable mention.
I'm getting very, very concerned. I'm getting very, very concerned because I was reliant on the Seahawks, your Seahawks. Now I must confess to you,
question.
I'm getting very, very nervous, and I can't say definitively yes about the Seattle Seahawks right now, which means that Dallas is even more elevated as the favorite to come out of the NFC, which is making me sick to my stomach just thinking about it. But it's true.
Here's the question, because I didn't make these rules, but we all know they exist. Did you reverse jinx the Cowboys? I think you may have reversed jinxed them.
No.
And now Seattle and the other NFC teams have the bad luck.
No. Unlike most Dallas Cowboy haters who want them to plummet from the very beginning, I like them to get high and enthusiastic and souped up and then plummet. That's what I like. This is falling right in line so long as everybody stays healthy. So long as everybody stays healthy. No. Because Earl Thomas got hurt, I'm very worried. And Atlanta Falcons stuck up the joint. We'll talk about them later with their idiotic selves. I got them to worry about. I'm not sold on the Green Bay Packers. I'm getting to the point where the Detroit Lions might be my savior. And the Giants laid an egg. The Redskins are disappointed. I'm getting very concerned.
That's a good call. You brought Detroit up. Detroit can become a problem for Dallas as well. And so let's not act like Dallas's defense is the Seattle defense from old.
No.
Or one of the best run stopping or, being effective in the passing game. They've had leads offensively where they can peel their ears back. The problem that I see with the Dallas Cowboys and Rob Marinelli is he doesn't blitz a lot. So if you don't blitz teams a lot, you're going to get dinked and dunked. Exactly. You're going to get dinked and dunked. They're going to move that ball around.
They also manage the clock, so that the defense isn't even on the field that much.
Exactly.
But the Cowboys' strength is obviously the offensive line. The weakness is their front four on defense.
Right.
Seattle, it's the opposite. Their defense is their strength, and their offensive line is the weakness. How does that play out? To me, I think maybe it works out for Seattle in the sense that their weakness is not going to be exploited by Dallas the way maybe another team's weakness can be, or they will be exploited against another team with a better front four.
The thing that if you have a decent front four and your offensive line is just okay, if you have a mobile quarterback, that becomes a problem for defensive linemen. Because now you have to take ends out of contain. They have to be wide to try to keep you inside the pocket. Puts a lot of pressure on the interior part of that defensive line. Russell Wilson is a mobile quarterback who will run if he has to.
And looks healthy.
Exactly. He'll run if he has to. But the problem with the defensive front and the front seven, so to speak, for Dallas is who's going to stop Jimmy Graham? And then who's going to stop Baldwin in the slot? That's a lot of pressure on Orlando.
And I'll tell you this much too. And you got to get Marshawn Lynch at least back on that sideline. You need the mystique, the aura.
The question is, does he really want to come back? That's the thing.
Not even if he's not playing. I'm just talking about. I don't give a damn have him on the side. You need that kind of attitude.
We got to move on though, guys. We're
Rough Riders, beast mode.
AFC contenders. Donovan's sticking with us.
You mean we're not talking about the Giants yet? I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was just waiting. Go ahead.